Today we shall start with Mulk Raj Anand's The Price of Bananas. The Price of Bananas is a funny and comical story about a monkey running away with the businessman's expensive cat. It teaches us a moral lesson and shows us the social problems in India. Now, Mulk Raj Anand was an Indian writer. You were supposed to know about the author. So, he was an Indian writer in English, an Indian writer who wrote in English. He was notable for his depiction of the lives of the poor castes in traditional Indian society. His works are noted for their perspective insight into the lives of the oppressed and for their analysis of impoverishment, exploitation, and misfortune. This text is an abridged version of the story The Price of Bananas. It presents an apparently funny situation. It's apparently funny, where a businessman has whose beloved cap is seized by a monkey, and he finally gets it back by offering an offended monkey a bunch of bananas. The author notes with sad concern the unkind and unjust behavior of the businessman towards the poor fruit vendor who had helped him get his cap back. So it seems to be funny, but it ends in a very sad way, where the businessman, once he gets back his cap, just dismisses the poor fruit vendor. Now we'll start with the LAQs, the long answer questions, which are: where was the author going? What did he do while he was waiting for the train? So where was the author going? The author was going to Lucknow. Since he had arrived, what did he do while he was waiting for the train? So since he had arrived at the station half an hour in advance, he sat on the bench watching the monkeys frolicking on the trees. They descended now and then to collect half-sucked mango stones and the remainders of food from the platform. The younger monkeys sat on the boughs of neem and tamarind trees, ready to jump after any food that may be visible. The second, which incident caused a great deal of general amusement among the people. A monkey had snatched the loincloth of a pious person who was taking a bath under the pump. The bather then requested the monkey to return it, and it being quite generous, threw it down from the neem tree at the man's feet. This incident had caused a great deal of general amusement. Third, why did the businessman catch the author's attention? Why did he notice this person? That is, the author noticed a gentleman who looked like a businessman. He was dressed in white muslin cloth, a delicate tunic, and an embroidered cap on his head. He stood out among the crowd. He had a lot of luggage with him, which included a big steel trunk, several small baskets, and a brass jug. The fourth question: who helped him retrieve his piece of clothing? How did he do so? Fourth, the monkey had snatched the businessman's embroidered cap. He had tried getting it back, but failed. At last, a fruit vendor retrieved it in exchange for a couple of bananas. He dangled the bananas and the monkey accepted the bargain, and he returned the cap. Fifth, did the rich man pay the vendor for his service? How did he justify his action? The vendor had asked 2 annas for the bananas that he had offered to the monkey, but the businessman only gave him an anna, that too after a lot of grumbling. And how did he justify his action? He tried to justify his action saying that he had not asked the vendor to help him. The vendor had done so willingly and therefore he was not entitled to pay him. Okay, now we'll move on to the SAQs. First, what mischief had the monkey done to the businessman? 1. When the businessman was calling for the porter, a monkey leapt from the top of the compartment and snatched away the fine embroidered cap of the businessman. 2. What, according to the vendor, had caused the monkeys to disturb the passengers? Answer. The fruit vendor believed that the monkeys disturbed the passengers because they were hungry. 3rd. How much money did he ask from the businessman? The vendor asked 2 annas for the bananas that he had offered the monkey in order to get back the businessman's cap. 4. What effect did the businessman's behavior have on the other passengers? The other passengers were appalled by the businessman's behavior. They were disgusted, appalled. They were sympathetic towards the poor fruit vendor who had volunteered to help the ungrateful man. 5th, what did the author do to make the businessman uncomfortable? 5th, the author expressed his disgust for the rich man by making a cartoon of him. He showed this to the others. This evoked laughter from all the passengers, and the more they laughed, the more uncomfortable the businessman became. Now the MCQs. First, the author had arrived at the Faizabad railway station A. half an hour ago, B. an hour ago, C. 3 hours ago. Second, the vendor had ran along with the train A. and was able to enter the compartment, B. had fallen in his attempt to do so, C. had got on to the footstep and clung to the window. Third, Sethji had turned his head away from the vendor. A. Why? Because he was looking at the other passengers. B. He pretended to fall asleep. C. He was looking out of the window at the goods train on the other side. With this, we finish the literature section. We will now move on to grammar. In grammar, we will do kinds of sentences. Now, before we move on to doing the kinds of sentences, we must primarily know what a sentence is. When we speak or write, we use words. We generally use these words in groups. So, a group of words which make complete sense is called a sentence. For example, little Jack Horner sat in a corner. It makes complete sense. A boy called little Jack Horner was sitting in a corner. So, little Jack Horner sat in a corner. It makes complete sense. A group of words which make complete sense is called a sentence. Now, we'll go further to classify these sentences. The first is declarative or assertive. Second, imperative. Third, interrogative. Fourth, optative. Fifth, exclamatory. What is a declarative sentence? A declarative sentence declares something, makes only a statement. It can be of two types, negative and affirmative. Negative, I did not eat the cake. Not is underlined there because that shows that this sentence is a negative sentence. Affirmative sentence, Father John is the principal of the school. Negative sentence, how to form negative sentence. The formation, we use no, none, never, not, or no one. Likewise, to form negative sentences. Example, there are chocolates in the fridge. How do we make it a negative sentence? There are no chocolates in the fridge. We add no there. Imperative sentence. It is used to express a command. Bring the box here. Or to make a request. Please help me clean the cupboard. You're requesting someone. To give someone advice. Always speak the truth. Now, in imperative sentences, the subject you is understood. Whom am I referring to? That you, the person. When I'm giving a command like bring the box here, I'm referring to someone. That is you. Or please help me clean the cupboard. I'm referring to you. But it's not mentioned here. It's understood. Okay. When making requests, please is used at the beginning of the sentence. Please switch on the fan. You, suppose I say you please switch on the fan, but we don't write this way. The you is understood. Now moving on to interrogative sentences. Interrogative sentences are used to ask questions. When we ask questions, to interrogate, to ask questions. It begins with words like how, what, when. Interrogative sentences can be of two types. One, yes or no questions like, are you tired? The answer might be yes or no. Or, do you want tea? Again, the answer might be yes or no. Again, we have WH questions. For example, who came to pick you up? Or, when are you leaving today? It begins with WH, WHO, WH, WHEN, again with the WH. WH questions. Interrogative sentences may also be negative, like, hasn't the train arrived yet? Hasn't is the shortened form of has not. So we say, hasn't the train arrived yet? So it is a negative interrogative sentence. Now, formation of the interrogative. How to form interrogative sentences. For example, Tina is a good dancer. We see Tina is a subject and is the auxiliary verb. So when we convert it into a sentence, is comes before and Tina follows it. So this change of the position of the subject and the verb. Is Tina a good dancer? The position changes. Is comes before, Tina follows the verb. When the assertive sentences have helping verbs like this, the question starts with them. Like Tina is, so it becomes is Tina. In sentences with modal auxiliaries, the question starts with them. Like Rahul joined the coaching class. So should is a modal auxiliary. So we place should in front of the sentence. And we, I'm very sorry, I did not put a question mark there. I'm very, very sorry. Just excuse me. You remember that it should, the question mark should have been there. Should Rahul join the coaching class? The question mark should have been there. I'm very, very sorry. Next, sentences that do not have helping verbs. Do is used in the beginning. Like, Shalini sings well. So there's no helping verb here, no modal auxiliary. So what do? We place do. So does is another form of do. Okay. So does Shalini sing well? Why is in the singular? Because Shalini is a singular subject. So does Shalini sing well? Now moving on to optative sentence. The sentences which express a prayer, keen wish, curse, etc. is called an optative sentence. It generally begins with may or wish. Generally, there are other words too that might come before it, Like, may you live long. May you live long. It begins with may. Wish you a happy journey together. Wishing somebody a happy journey. Wishing that that person might live long, might have a long, healthy life. Then long live the King of Westeros. Okay, you're wishing the King of Westeros to have a long life. So you're expressing a keen wish. Okay, a prayer. Now, exclamatory sentence expresses strong, sudden, intense excitement, disgust, admiration, shock, or sorrow. That kind of sentence is called an exclamatory sentence. These sentences have to have an exclamation mark at the end of it. Like interrogative sentences have question mark at the end of it, and exclamatory sentences too have exclamation mark at the end. Hooray! At the end or in the middle. Like, hooray, we have won the match. Here the exclamation mark is just after hooray. Hooray, we have won the match. Or, how cold it is today. The exclamation mark is at the end. Now, sentences can be further classified. We can further classify sentences under 3 categories, namely simple, compound, and complex. What is a simple sentence? A simple sentence is a sentence which has one subject, one predicate, and an infinite verb. And a finite verb. Now, what is a finite verb? A finite verb shows agreement with the subject. We have done agreement with the subject, how the verb agrees in person and number with the subject. We have done that chapter before. So, this kind of verb, the finite verb shows agreement with the subject and is also marked for tense. Okay, the forms change. Like, true lovers of mankind are rare in the world. Here, true lovers of mankind is the subject, are rare in the world is the predicate. And that is one finite verb, are. Okay. Now, compound sentences. These sentences are made up of 2 or more parts which are joined together by a coordinating conjunction. Like, the sun was setting and we were still away from our destination. The sun was setting. That is a separate sentence. If we put that separately, the sun was setting, it makes complete sense. And if we put we were still away from our destination, if we take it separately, that also makes complete sense. So, they do not depend on each other for their meaning. Both have their own subjects and predicates. Like, the sun is subject, was setting, predicate of the first part, and we, the subject, and were still away from our destination is the predicate of the second part. These 2 parts are joined by the coordinating conjunction and. Okay, so each part or each clause makes complete sense by itself. They are independent of each other. So both of them can be called main clause. Both of them are main clauses. Now, complex sentence, the third kind. It consists of one main clause or one or more subordinate clauses. Like, the subordinate clauses depend on the main clause for its full meaning. They cannot stand alone. Okay, like, do not, in the sentence, do not count your chickens until they are hatched. Do not count your chickens is the main clause, while until they are hatched is the subordinate clause. The main clause has a complete meaning. It has its own subject and predicate, of course. Okay, it has its own subject predicate because they are clauses. But the second portion, until they are hatched, it is a subordinate clause. If we just say until they are hatched, does it make any sense at all? No, it does not make any sense at all. We have to join it with this portion, that is, do not count your chickens. Then it does make complete sense. So subordinating clause does not make complete sense on its own. It depends. It is dependent on the main clause for its full meaning. And of course, it has its own subject and predicate, being a clause. Now, the exercise, I have not given you a lot here. State whether the following sentences are assertive, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory, or optative. First, don't disturb me while I am studying. Second, the book is very interesting. Third, where do you live? Fourth, may God bless you. Fifth, what a clever man he is. This is very easy, but you'll also practice the simple compound complex, the identification, and also the transformation part. Okay.